Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Movie Chatter. And I've already got to change the logo down there in the corner. I am Eric, and I am here with my two regular co-hosts, Lou and Robin Butt. But we have a special guest.
Robin Butt?
Robin Butt.
Robin Butt? Did I get
I mean,
married?
we kind of refer to Tim as Robin's Butt sometimes. I do anyway. Yes.
Yeah, don't talk about that in front of him. Good thing he's not here.
There we go. There we got the logo fixed.
Yeah.
So all the way from Guardians of the MCU and MCU TV, we have Tim. Tim, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Marvel Maniacs. Welcome to another exciting episode of Guardians.
Close.
Oh, wrong show. Sorry.
Close.
Sorry, wrong show. I'm well. I'm excited to talk about Black Widow again. And I'm going to plug Guardians because we just recorded our review episode of Black Widow last night. It is already up and out there. And listen to that as well. It's you're going to get different opinions, different perspectives on things.
More knowledgeable opinions.
Which is great. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I went there.
I
did it.
Spoken
Yep.
yet. Lou, should we just leave?
I guess we should.
So
We'll go have a drink with
okay,
Sharon.
Robin, I'm
Yeah.
about to make you feel better. Hey, Tim, how
Okay.
did the discussion go about all of the WandaVision nominations last night? Was it like 23 Emmy nominations?
Well, we didn't discuss it because the news didn't come out until after we recorded. But yes, 23 nominations for WandaVision, which is just wild.
That's nice.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And and Lovecraft Country, which didn't get another season, got 18.
Really?
Which is also massive. Yeah. So
I don't understand them not renewing that.
It's big.
That confuses me.
Mandalorian
I don't
got a bunch of
understand it
nominations as
either.
well.
It's crazy.
Mandalorian picked up a couple, I guess. I didn't catch all the numbers yet. I haven't had a chance to look, but yeah. So good on WandaVision. That's pretty awesome. So, Tim, we do have a little bit of a side topic before we get to Black Widow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, we had explained to our listeners, because we were discussing musicals for some ungodly reason.
I have no idea.
Yeah, well, Robin keeps talking about them all the time, so it's like.
Well, it's funny is that we keep saying Robin's one, but she doesn't like musicals either. So
But she keeps talking to us about needing to do musicals.
I don't.
You do. You keep throwing out the greatest whatever it was, and like keep making these threats over and over again. We've got it documented.
Empty threats.
Well,
I have a pencil
so
here, Eric.
we decided to be timely because it
John,
had just come out. I don't know. I've seen you try to like log into YouTube and other things. I'm not sure about how scared I should be with you and a pencil. Unless you're going to like write me a nasty note with it.
Make you cry.
Well, that doesn't take much. So we were going to do In the Heights because it was a new movie. It was also by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's done some incredible things, including Hamilton. And so we were going to cover it, and then we decided not to. And we decided not to because while I thought it was good, but not my thing, I thought we were going to have to take Robin to the ER at one point. The level of vitriol and hatred for this film was epic.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to ever talk her into watching Hamilton now, which is sad because it was.
Hey, Hamilton's worth seeing.
See, another non-musical person saying Hamilton's worth seeing.
I just don't like people singing their dialogue. It doesn't work.
Yeah, on a stage it's okay. In a movie it feels weird. But we talked about that before too. So real quick, and we'll move on. In the Heights, Lou, yes or no?
Yes, did I see
No.
it?
Would you recommend it to people?
If you like musicals,
okay,
sure.
so you think that it's just not your thing, but it wasn't necessarily badly done.
Exactly. I think it was a well put together movie. I thought the musical numbers were really good. I mean, it sounded good. It was fun, entertaining, but
okay.
just not my thing.
And I'm in the same boat. I will say that people.
I didn't need a swimming pool full of people singing this.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean the production was good, but
yeah,
people who have seen the stage show.
I'm breaking the song at work, but I just don't see a place for it.
I agree with you. Some people were upset because they changed certain story points in the movie from the stage show, and after hearing about those, I think the movie would have been better if they left it the way it was in the stage show. But and Robin, we know that you would never recommend it to anybody ever.
I would recommend it to a film school student to know
As punishment?
When to turn the camera off.
Wow, you didn't even say that about Cannibal.
I know. I actually never mind.
No, say it. You were going to say you liked Cannibal better.
I used Cannibal the musical as a reference in my class to talk about why things done in film school should never be put in the general population.
Okay. All right, that's fair. Tim, you have any comments on In the Heights?
You didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't watch it. That's right. You got out of it.
You're a smart man.
You have a loving wife.
I do. He does. I am.
What'd you think of Cannibal?
You didn't see that either.
You got out of both of those?
Hey, Lou. We'll have him watch Kung Pao with us.
I'm busy that
Kung
day.
Pao, end of the fist. You want to make a
I'll
day
have
of it?
jury duty that day.
Okay, I mean, if you want to.
We're not making a day of it.
All right, so let's move on to. Hi, everybody in the chat room. By the way.
Hi.
Let's move on to the actual content. Black Widow. Now everybody knows what this is. Everybody knows who the character is. Everybody knows the story about how it was delayed due to the pandemic, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to start the conversation out a little differently than we normally do, just because it's one of those things where so many people know so much about it. So first, spoiler warnings. We are going to break down the movie. I would suggest going to watch it first. We're going to give a quick roundtable general thoughts first. So you just stick around a few minutes more. But once we start breaking it down, then we're going to get into spoilers. First, we're going to tell you whether or not we think it's worth you either heading to the theaters or picking up on Disney Plus. I'm going to say I was underwhelmed. It was good. I enjoyed it. My expectations were going to be that I was going to be underwhelmed. And I was okay with those expectations because I thought, well, maybe if the bar is low enough, then the movie will exceed my expectations and it'll make me even happier. And the movie was pretty much right about where my expectations were. It felt very much like a movie version of Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is a good thing. But I mean, if I didn't have to do the podcast, I wouldn't have watched it a second time yet, I don't think. Lou, you look like you're in pain.
No, I just want to know. It's hard to be underwhelmed when you got what you expected.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing.
No,
Okay,
I'm just saying.
That's fair. I was so my interest level in it compared to the hype and compared to the bar set by previous Marvel movies, I kind of felt like, and I kind of felt. I don't want to say disappointed necessarily because it wasn't a disappointment. It wasn't a great movie. It was a good movie.
So, I mean, a great movie in terms of scope or in terms of just what you, I guess I'm just asking, it's hard to live up to, or it's hard to follow up stuff like, Endgame in Infinity War. Those were epic. A lot of characters, a lot of things going on. Culmination of, Tim, how many movies? What was the number there, Tim?
A lot.
11 years worth of movies.
Yeah, so that is a big scope. I mean, that's an epic movie. This was never going to be that. Was it? No. Was it good?
And it's not fair to compare it to that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
No, I concede that.
Okay.
I think it's more that the character to me, we talked a little bit on Random Chatter about this, and I think this is an episode where we'll break it down a little bit more. The character to me, it's always been a good character. It's performed well by Scarlett Johansson. I have no complaints about the character. Just even in the comic books, it's always underwhelmed me. It's always been, you've got these big hitters, and then there's this other person on the team who's a spy. Well, that's great, except you're flying around in space, or you're traveling through time, or you're doing all of these different epic level stuff, and then you've got someone who punches and kicks really well. Okay, I get it. I'd be more impressed seeing her on something like Marvel Defenders. You know, Luke Cage and Daredevil and the Punisher and all that kind of stuff. Then I am seeing her with the Avengers, and I get the historical connection there, but I'm like, if this movie had never come out, I would have been fine with it. But let's go around and get everybody's opinions. Lou, why don't you kind of recap what your thoughts were, and then I want to hear from Tim and Robin.
Okay, sure. I mean, I enjoyed it. Like I do every Marvel movie. I think their quality is high. The acting is good. The direction and cinematography, all that stuff is top notch. The humor I thought was good in this movie. I liked the interplay between the two lead actresses there. It was fantastic. What was the story? Like I said, was a story in epic scope of like what we've seen recently from Marvel? No, but it wasn't meant to be. Mm-hmm. If this had come out when it was supposed to come out, I think it would have fit better, with what we saw.
Agreed.
But overall, I think it's a very good entry into the Marvel MCU.
Okay, Robin, what are your thoughts?
So I liked the writing. I liked the way the script was developed. I get it. The story might not have been as deep as others might have wanted it. I liked the balance between, we didn't spend a whole lot of time describing her origins. I think they spent just enough time to help novices understand it, and those folks who really, really love the Marvel Universe appreciate it. And so, I mean, I voluntarily watched it a second time the next night and got more out of it the second time around, because I was able to just sort of sit and let all of that wonderfully written dialogue and the characters came more alive for me. So I think it's absolutely worth watching, especially if you like the Black Widow character.
Okay. Now, Tim, our resident Marvel guru.
It was a really nuanced movie because it was, I think to a large extent, actually less about Natasha and more about Yelena in a lot of ways, in terms of them introducing her, establishing the relationship between the two, the background that the two of them had, and looking forward. And it was it's the positioning of this movie, of the story within the MCU, as kind of a look back. This took place right after Civil War, and we know obviously that in Endgame, Natasha died. So you knew that Natasha was going to live through this, because she was going to be in an Infinity War. So you kind of knew where things were going for her, but it was also a good look at exploring things that we have kind of had hinted to us, like the Red Room, like what happened in Budapest, other little elements of her past. I was a little disappointed that we actually didn't get more of the Red Room. I expected to see like flashbacks of her enduring the training in the Red Room and that kind of stuff, kind of that rigor. And then it was interesting because there were, so we didn't get really much of that, but we got, I think in some other scenes, I think some other scenes were extended a bit too much, like the whole prison break for Alexei. It was cool. It was really well done. But once you got about 2/3 of the way through it, you're like, all right, come on, let's just we know you guys are going to get him out of the prison. Let's just go.
Right.
So there were some things that they really kind of drew out. But I liked it. I love the characters that they brought us. I like the story that they told. The directing I thought was fantastic. There were some effects, particularly some of the really big moments, like in the prison breakout, in the kind of like toward the end, the whole skydiving thing. Some of the effects got a little wonky in it. But no, I was happy. I mean, it kind of like you, Eric. I had expectations, and it met my expectations, and I'm happy with it. I learned things. So I mean, there were some of it we kind of knew where it was going. Other aspects of it were surprises to me. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was good with it. Not an outstanding movie, but it was a really good, solid movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think that. So I agree with Robin that the writing was really good, but there were aspects of the writing that kind of bugged me. And your point about the prison break thing, it really felt like insert action scene here. Like, we don't have anything for the middle act. We need an action scene. I kind of feel like action scenes are, maybe I'm just getting too used to them, or we're getting spoiled for having these gargantuan, over the top, special effects ridden action scenes all the time. But with Marvel films, there are certain expectations that there are going to be those in the film, and especially in a film like this, you kind of, they're coming. And I kind of felt like a lot of the action scenes were underwhelming in this, other than one-on-one combat scenes. The choreography, the fight choreography, I thought was really good. I just wasn't,
especially with Taskmaster, with all
very
the things
much
that they like integrated for her of Captain America and Hawkeye.
That's another thing. I feel like that
Black
was such
Panther and
such a wasted opportunity, though, because that was so brilliant, and that is the perfect villain for superheroes like Black Widow. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I heard that it was going to be Taskmaster as the main villain, I thought, oh my gosh, that's so perfect. This is the perfect villain for this film. And I feel like Taskmaster was painfully underused.
Yeah, she didn't get enough screen time. There was really a lot more needed with that character. And we had talked about that last night on Guardians. We were really, really looking forward to that character. What they've set up, hopefully we are going to see more of her into the future. And of course, we don't know, given basically her disposition at the end of the movie, we don't know if she's going to be a, protagonist or antagonist. I'm still kind of hoping that something pushes her toward the dark side, because that's what Taskmaster is.
I hope so too.
And she's an awesome character. So I'd love to see more of that. But there were a lot of some not so subtle James Bond references.
Like the actual James Bond movie being in the movie.
The actual James Bond movie. And they did Moonraker, which I don't know why. That's like a bottom 5 James Bond movie.
That was my first James Bond movie in the theater, so I have a special place in my heart for that. So Tim, just go easy.
I'm sorry, Lou. I'm sorry. And also including having Rachel Weisz in the movie, who is the wife of James Bond, literally. She's Daniel Craig's wife.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, but the prison breakout scene reminded me very much of a Pierce Brosnan era James Bond action scene. With how that was shot, and the Pierce Brosnan stuff to me is like over the top. I mean, things with James Bond are always a little over the top and a little exaggerated. Right. The Pierce Brosnan stuff was like way too much, and that seemed to be. And I'm not saying it was bad, but it was too much.
I agree. That scene. I mean, to me, some of the best parts of the movie were the interactions between the characters. The final act, the end, the resolution, I thought was done well. Otherwise, there was a lot of stuff in the movie that I don't want to say it was filler because it wasn't filler. It had content, it had meaning, but it was kind of like I felt like I was watching a Disney Plus series, which is fine. I like the Disney Plus series, but it just, I don't know. And maybe part of it was, Lou and I discussed this on Random Chatter. I didn't see it in the theater. I don't think any of the four of us saw it in the theater, right? We all saw it on Disney Plus. Okay.
Correct. Right.
And watching it alone, watching any movie alone, it's very easy to get distracted. You can pause the movie and check your text messages, and there's not somebody next to you on the couch saying, "Hey, what are you doing? I was watching that." There's no hurdle there. And especially the first time around, I found myself getting really distracted pretty easily. The movie didn't feel as engaging, I think, is maybe the best way for me to put it. It wasn't as immersive to me as most of my other Marvel film experiences. And I think this is one of 2 Marvel movies out of, again, 11 years worth of them that I didn't see first in the theater. And I wonder if that didn't hurt my interpretation, my impression of the movie. I wonder if I wouldn't have enjoyed it more if I'd seen it in the theater, because I would have been more singularly focused on it.
Well, and there's also the wow factor. I mean,
yeah,
all that action and there were big things going on. And I, a movie like this absolutely deserves to be seen in a theater. I'm simply not ready to go to a theater right now. So, right. We got the next best choice. But I'll tell you, a lot of people did take that next best choice. $80 million domestic opening box office weekend. And Disney released that they made $60 million off of Disney Plus.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So 140 million total. Nice. I mean, that's a success. Yeah. That's good news.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I tell you, who's ready for the movie theater again? My Regal Cinema Club thing
that they're charging you for now
again this month. Yeah. I hadn't been charged since March of 2020. I was like, oh look, I got to charge my card this month. So yeah, they're ready for me to come back.
They want you back. Yeah, I mean, we're getting there. Free Guy comes out next month. And quick little sidebar. I don't know if anybody here saw it. There is a, on YouTube, one of the big things right now, doing trailer reactions or show reactions. But, you're sitting there watching the trailer and then you pause it and give some commentary and stuff like that. Kind of like what we used to do on Trailer Breakdown, but like people do it during the trailer. So this one is Deadpool with, what's the guy made of rocks from Thor Ragnarok, played by Taika Waititi? Korg. Deadpool and Korg sitting on a couch together, breaking down the Free Guy trailer in character. It was,
and I haven't watched it yet, but
I've seen the things for it, but I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, Tim, it is glorious. It is.
Yeah.
They need to just put Deadpool on YouTube forever. It's perfect. But speaking of that, which is not MCU, but had MCU characters, the one thing I liked about Black Widow is how it might factor into the future of the MCU. The Black Widow character I found interesting, but like you said, Tim, Yelena's involvement in the movie, I mean, she kind of felt more like the character that had development, the character that progressed throughout the film. And I'm hoping that this is kind of a vehicle to introduce her into the MCU. And of course, we had the after credits scene. And again, Taskmaster. So I'm kind of more satisfied with this film in the sense that if this is the introduction, the origin story, basically for those two characters, and we get them going forward, this movie was worth it. If not, then to me, this movie was disposable. Good, but
well, it's tough to have a movie about a character
that's already
is
dead.
Gone.
Yeah.
Because then what do you do? It's not like they're not making any more Marvel movies. This is an ongoing franchise that they're going to be developing. Unless Elena becomes the new Black Widow, or they, I wouldn't mind seeing a series of, like a regular television series on the Widows, just, them as a team.
Yeah.
If that stayed together, if Elena would run them, and, that'd be kind of cool, but
Robin, is there anything about the movie that you didn't care for that much? Or, I'm sitting here talking about some pacing issues and stuff like that. And you're being very quiet and gracious in letting me talk, but I want to know, as someone who really focuses on the structure of films, both in how the directors handle it and how it's written and stuff like that. I know you enjoyed the movie, and you did say it was well written and well directed and stuff, but any opportunities that were missed that you saw?
Well, no, because my take on this was, I was supposed to get relationships, and this movie delivered what it promised. And so for me, it's absolutely a win, and it delivered it in a way that was palatable, for the little broken me out there who doesn't need a ton of romance to know that people fall in love, who doesn't need a ton of sentimentality to know that children come out of broken pasts, as often as better adults or broken adults or whatever, right? So what I appreciated about the movie was the brevity of that kind of elongated interaction between the characters.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And so I thought and I guess we're heading into spoiler territory. Otherwise, I'm not going to be
we've
able
already
to.
Hit it.
Yeah. I thought the relationship between Alexei and the widows and Drake, the guy Dreykov. Dreykov and the widows was perfect, right? Those two father figures in this scenario, I think, were played perfectly, were scripted perfectly, and the interplay between the actors was exactly what I needed in order to not hate the movie. Because truly, while I will suffer action scenes that go on too long, and I have no problem doing that, Tim is a very patient man when there's a movie on and the relationship scenes go on for far too long. Like, I'll just get up and leave, and he can sit there with those, and then I'll come back when they're done with that foolishness.
Robin hates love, ladies and gentlemen.
And yet I'm in a wonderful relationship with an amazing man.
I do have to say, listen, I've seen the two of you as a couple. Like, I've stayed at your place and stuff, and there is a certain irony there to me of watching you interact with your husband, and then your absolute disdain for anything romantic in a movie. Like two people in the middle of a war, they're in like a foxhole shooting, and they're about to be overrun, and one of them says, "Hey, I saw Bob kissing a girl last week," and Robin's like, "Oh, I'm out." Like, that's it. Just a reference to something.
Just shoot Bob. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bob's not even in the foxhole. Like, he's, way down the street or something. Like, you just don't even mention it around Robin. It's like she'd rather have a time travel movie.
That's not a subgenre. So that's why I really liked. That's why I really like this.
No, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, but they didn't go on and on and on about the history and the broken childhood and all of this. Like, it's mentioned and it's there, and the effects are seemingly obvious, but they didn't belabor it.
The director did what directors are supposed to do. They showed, they didn't tell.
Yeah.
That's the hallmark of a good movie. Mm-hmm. Like, I got it and I didn't need to be hit over the head.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We should probably wrap up here in a few minutes, but before we go, any thoughts? Do you guys want to see more of Yelena, Taskmaster? Anything else? Do you want this to go somewhere in the Marvel universe, or are you okay with kind of closing the door on this chapter?
So I have a question about Taskmaster, and I didn't pre-talk to Tim about this but I get the feeling that the way people are talking about Taskmaster is Taskmaster was portrayed as a softer, gentler version of this villain, which, if that is so, I think this is an appropriate origin story for that character as well, because where she goes from here, right, is her writing her own story. And so as not a widow, but certainly someone enmeshed in that a cultural moment, also being controlled, she also needed to be free to become who she will eventually become, whether, as Tim says, that's a protagonist or an antagonist, whatever the relationship between her and Melina will be. I'm sort of intrigued to see what they do with that character, so I'm in for another flick.
I've always found Taskmaster to be one of the most interesting, I don't know, there's probably a classification for it, but like ground level villains, like not cosmic, not, Doctor Doom level, but like just a normal person, so to speak. Taskmaster to me is one of the most interesting villains in that class, that category, that power rank. It would be a shame, in my opinion, for this to be all we get of that character. I would love to see her come back, and I'd love to see her come back as a villain, and hopefully maybe in Hawkeye.
I mean, there's so many villains they could choose from. Do you need to bring this one back? And I agree, because to have her, but it's already been done, and she's no longer a villain. I mean, to have her turn back to a villain again would be kind of. I
mean, she could still be pissed off that she got killed. I mean, I would still probably not be thrilled about it. Yeah. But the thing about, you bring up an excellent point about the fact there are a lot of different characters to choose from. And on the hero side too. However, you invest in a character, antagonist, protagonist, whatever, you invest in the characters. And that was one of the nice things about how the MCU has been handled so far, is we can keep going back to it. And it's like a reunion every time we get to see another movie. If you bounce around from character to character too much, and you don't really get to spend enough time with them, it's just like glancing blows as you navigate through this rogues gallery. I kind of feel like you're missing some opportunities there, and you're not really getting to connect with anything. It's almost like all of the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher Batman movies. We bring in a villain and we kill him. Well, now we're going to bring in two villains, and we're going to kill both of them. Now we're going to bring in three, maybe back to two. I don't know. We'll just keep bringing in as many as we can. We're going to kill them all off.
Right.
I would be okay with seeing her again more, I think.
Yeah. Well, and especially considering that we are going to be getting some more street level heroes as well. We've got Moon Knight coming up. We've got She-Hulk, who is, she's kind of this weird balance between a street level and a, much more powered kind of character.
Right.
And it kind of also the same thing with Ms. Marvel, where not
she's Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel.
Correct.
Yeah. And Shang-Chi,
where she's powered, but she doesn't go off doing wild, crazy things.
Right.
At least as much. She's kind of like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Right.
She keeps things very local. So yeah, I really hope that they don't waste the opportunity. I'd like to see more of Taskmaster. It's an awesome character. I like the spin that they've put on the character. And so really, really worthwhile to do.
Yeah.
Certainly we're going to see Yelena in the Hawkeye series.
Yeah.
Right.
It's something that's been rumored. And then what we got from the post-credit scene reinforced that I think she's going to have a much more major part.
Right.
And I got to say, kudos to Marvel. They have been keeping some really good secrets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially given the number of set photos that we were seeing out of Hawkeye, and not once did Florence Pugh show up. That is damn impressive. I mean, seriously impressive. So, you know, and I'm looking forward to see what they do there. We had a big discussion also, just to plug the Guardians episode, about this whole, basically about the post-credit scene. John had a lot of concern with it, which I completely understood, because basically it kind of seemed that this quasi-redemption arc that we saw Yelena go through, and, you know, kind of picking up some values, if you will, from Nat, since, you know, Nat has this history of, you know, she was bad and then she basically redeemed herself, and she's had some time as a hero and all that, as an Avenger. They kept like hammering that home hard in the, you know, through the movie, that she's an Avenger, she's an Avenger. And we then get to this post-credit scene, and Yelena is, this clearly wasn't the first time that she's had a conversation with Contessa.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're pretty sure that Contessa isn't on the up and up. I mean, in the comics, she was Madam Hydra. You know, and all indications that we got from her, at least the vibe that we got from Falcon and Winter Soldier with her interactions with U.S. Agent, weren't on the up and up. It almost seems like, wow, so Yelena got like pulled back into, you know, the darkness, if you will. And it's a tough pill to swallow, but we also
don't know
have to
how
understand
dark it is yet necessarily. Like, we as comic book fans know, but does the character?
We think we know.
And also, I got to ask you before we wrap: Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers? U.S. Agent,
you know, I don't know.
Black Widow 2, or however you want to refer to Yelena. Any thoughts?
It could go either way. You know, Thunderbolts is a big thing with Ross, and we're continuing to see General Ross persist. Zemo obviously has come back, so that's a big thing there. The Dark Avengers it also seems to be a big possibility for what they're setting up. So either way, you know, I don't know, but either way, we're seeing that cast of characters starting to fill out.
Right.
And this is basically going to be the, you know, they are the antithesis of the Avengers.
Yep.
And that's, you know, that's what we're going to see.
Any other final comments before we wrap up, guys?
One last comment I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm surprised it hasn't been more talked about in this, but on the internet, with as touchy as everybody can be these days. I was surprised at the direction of the photography to have so many butt shots of Natasha. Now, I didn't mind them, but it seemed like every time we saw her, it's like, let's start the frame waist high, shooting at her butt, and have her walk.
I didn't catch that.
Lou,
why are you paying so much attention to Scarlett Johansson's butt, Lou?
No, and I'm usually oblivious to this because like it doesn't bother me, but I'm like, for me, for some reason, it looked like, wow, with as sensitive as the internet is these days, this is going to just blow up, and it hasn't.
I don't know, Lou. It isn't very often that I say it was just you, but I watched it a second time, having heard your comment the night before, because we watched it together, and I thought, I'm not looking at a lot of Scarlett butt. I don't know what he's looking at.
Not that there's anything wrong with her butt.
Nothing wrong with it, but it's just, you know.
Nothing wrong.
But yeah, Lou. Wow. Where was your mind at?
Notice that. Well, I have an appreciation for her butt.
I guess so.
You know, still, I'm just saying.
You know, my take on it, and I did think a little bit more on this in watching it the second time. And I got to say, it was, yes, it was there, but I think also the shots weren't completely gratuitous.
They weren't like the Wonder Woman shots in the first Justice League version.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it wasn't anything like that. And again, we even talked about this a bit last night on Guardians. Like Lizzie brought up the one shot where the generator ran out of gas, and Nat goes out there and she checks it, and it's out of gas, and she grabs the gas can, and the camera's focus is on the gas can, and she walks the 8 steps to her vehicle, and the camera basically just simply stays behind her, because the focus is the gas can and then her walking to the vehicle. There's almost no sense in zooming out. It kind of kept the same focus, which was at that level. And so, so it's her butt, as she's going to the vehicle, but it wasn't this. She also wasn't in, the skin tight cat suit that, she's worn in the past, that kind of stuff. I think it was less gratuitous than it's been in the past.
So Lou, you have lazy camera work to thank for getting so many good shots of Scarlett Johansson.
I'm not necessarily disputing what Lou's saying, but I think the essence of it was not as gratuitous as what we've seen before.
So I'll say that I noticed the Wonder Woman thing. I did not notice it in this movie. So again, I'm not going to say either that Lou is incorrect in it, but I'll say that I didn't notice it. And if so many people are not noticing it as being something that stands out and is distracting, then it's probably not bad enough to be a concern, I guess.
Well, when I searched Black Widow butt shots on Google,
Lou, what have we told you about more careful Google searches?
Is a YouTube clip that somebody put together 2 days ago of all the great shots.
Does that surprise you, Lou? If you go search for something on the internet, you're gonna find it. It's gonna be there.
I'm just saying.
So, Lou, while you're searching on the internet, can you figure out what my totem animal is at all? Because I'm having trouble finding that.
And you know what? There are probably inappropriate videos for that too, Lou. So just don't.
So one thing I'll point out here, that the director is Kate Shortland. So we had a female director. Of course, it's not to say that a woman director isn't going to do, gratuitous over-sexualization kind of stuff. I think what it comes down to is simply a balance. I mean, we've seen plenty of shots of, Chris Hemsworth without a shirt on.
There's a meme about
that kind of
Captain America's butt, Chris Evans.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, anyone, regardless of gender, can be sexualized.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's fine, obviously, to an extent. You got to be able to put it in a box. I think that the big issue comes about when you have the hypersexualization type of thing, like what we saw in Iron Man 2. And I love Iron Man 2.
I hate it.
But yeah, they really went over the top.
Well, we have to wrap, so
introduction
I'll ask you offline about it, but I don't remember that. But of Black Widow,
and you'll realize it's yeah.
I've succeeded for the most part in pushing so much of that movie out of my mind.
No, you should watch it again.
I really don't ever want to ever do that ever. Like worst MCU film. Worst MCU film ever.
So disappointing.
And there you have it.
There you have it. That's it. Okay, that's going to wrap
our
coverage of Black Widow. Tim, thank you for joining us tonight. It was good to have someone from the Guardians of the MCU podcast, as well as the MCU TV podcast. And you can find both of those over at randomchatter.com. And while you are at randomchatter.com, go up to the address bar and put a / at the end of it and go to store. And you can buy t-shirts with the Random Chatter logo, the Movie Chatter logo, the Guardians of the MCU logo. Lots of ways you can support the network and get something really cool as a result. So please do that. You can join us for discussions like this and many others on the Escape Hatch Discord server. If you go to randomchatter.com/escape hatch, That is a quick and easy way to get an invite link. And then finally, if you would like to watch us on YouTube, you can join us live in the chat room there. Joe, thank you for chiming in about the bed bugs. Not going to elaborate here because it'll scare people away from theaters forever, possibly. But
thanks, Joe.
Never get that out of my head. So, but you can hang out with us during the recordings. Go to randomchatter.com/YouTube. Hit the subscribe and like buttons. The notification button, the one that looks like a little bell there, that'll let you know when we're going live or when we post new content. And that is going to be it. Stick around. Next episode, we are going to be discussing The Tomorrow War, which you can see on, that's on Amazon, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
On Amazon Prime Video. Great movie. We're going to discuss that next. So until